we good, Adam?
You're on.
Oh, that's scary. Good evening and welcome to Summers County Board of Education's regular meeting. This is Wednesday, August the 25th, 2021. The time is 6:06 p.m. Let the minutes reflect for roll call. We have 4 members present, and Mr. McBride is joining us by phone, so we have all members present for this meeting. At this time, Mr. Angel, would you do invocation and pledge for us?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you again today, Lord, thankful for the many blessings you give us each day. Lord, we thank you for each person that's here tonight to look into the work of the Summers County school system. Lord, we pray for our students, that you'll give them knowledge and understanding through the school year. Pray for our staff, that you'll give them patience as they're working with our students. Lord, we just pray that we will take each item on this agenda and give it the attention it needs and help us to all make the best decision for the students of this county. Lord, we just ask you especially tonight to remember our soldiers in Afghanistan, remember those that are our civilians there, and our Afghan allies, Lord, that you would just watch over and protect them at this time. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your wife has tracked you down.
We have item 3, which is approval of agenda and adjustments. The chair moves that under personnel items, I move that we postpone the resignation consideration until the next regular meeting, which time it'll be on the agenda. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that under personnel item 11 for resignation of this board, postpone that item for consideration until the next regular meeting, Superintendent Warlock. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 5 votes in affirmative. We'll deal with that at the next meeting. Does any member see any other items that they would like to make adjustments for on the agenda? Anybody want to pull out any bills to be pulled out for consideration separately?
R.T. Rogers and Safe and Sound, please.
Okay. Chair moves that for consideration of the bills for R.T. Rogers and Safe and Sound, chair moves that we deal with those separately from the rest of the bills.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, second by Mrs. Farley, that R.T. Rogers and Safe and Sound bills be dealt with separately when we move to pay the bills. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 5 votes in affirmative. We'll go that way. Okay, if there's no other changes, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the aforementioned changes.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. Angel. This board approve the agenda as presented to us by the superintendent, subject to the changes that have previously were passed moments ago. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining? Okay. Agenda has been approved, subject to the 2 changes that we passed on. That brings us to item 4, public comment. There are none. Really? Okay. Presentations, Mr. Warble, ESERF, ARP.
Yeah, basically what those acronyms are for are with, at the beginning it was CARES Act, it's all COVID money, just another acronym for secondary and elementary school systems and relief for school systems. You all got this presentation, we did it in here on the board, that Ms. Jones, Ms. Crook, Mr. Lester, and myself, we went to the State Department and did this presentation. The State Department said, this is what looks really good, You need to make a few adjustments, tweak those, make sure you make a public comment for your people to have that on your website. We've had it out more than 30 days because we did this back in May. We just need you all tonight to approve this because the state is fine with us. This is their way of checks and balances with the federal government to see how we're spending our money. The other thing we had to do was we had to do an amendment to our CEFP, which you approved, and the state board approved by renovations with Talcott Gymnasium and also the renovations at Hinton Area Complex with adding a place for students to eat, and then the gymnasium will not be the cafeteria anymore. There is a question that people do have, not by comments on the webpage, but by talks that I've had, and I think a few of you might have had some people in the community ask you questions about, why don't you just build a brand new Talcott Gymnasium? We can't do that. That's strings attached with the federal dollars. We have to take the facilities we have and reconfigure, update, rework if we can do that. And the best way for the State Department to have assurances for the federal government's assurances is for us to present plans or amend our plans. And we have it in writing that the board approved our amendment to our CFP. And we have not had any public comments about how we're spending the money. So I don't need to go into detail because you guys have heard this presentation. It's been out for public comment. I just want to give you guys a hard copy of this. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any of those questions at this point in time.
I would make a comment on that to all the members. Remember, if you get questioned about that regarding the Talcott Gymnasium, there's a couple of reasons. We think the community would like to see that building preserved, but just let people know that we're using COVID money. So every time you get an opportunity, you mention that to people, particularly people in that community, and so they'll understand. Anything else, Superintendent Wilbur, on that?
Nah, I don't mean to rush through it, but you guys have been through this numerous times.
Yeah, we're fine.
It's been out for public comment, but if you guys have any questions, I have no problem answering those questions at this point in time. But I know our whole staff has been really frugal and judicious with how we're gonna spend the money. We can make adjustments on the fly a little bit, but for the most part, we're spending quite a bit of those monies already in our facilities at this point in time.
Okay, we'll move to item 6 now, approval of minutes. We have August 12th and August 19th of 2021. August 12th being a regular board meeting and the 19th being a special meeting. Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from August 12th, regular board meeting, and August 19th, special board meeting.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Angel, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that this board approve the minutes presented to us by the superintendent for August 12th and August 19th of 2021. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 5 votes in affirmative. Superintendent Warble. That brings us to approval of bills. By previous motion, we have separated out bills. The chair moves that this board would pay the bill to R.T. Rogers and Safe and Sound as presented to us by the superintendent and the CSBO.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. McBride, this board pay R.T. Rogers and Safe and Sound bills as presented to us by the superintendent. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 5 votes in affirmative.
Abstain.
Okay, I'm sorry. Abstaining would be Mr. Brogan. Okay, all right. 4 votes in the affirmative and 1 abstention from Mr. Brogan. We have before you the rest of the bills.
I make a motion to pay the rest of the bills.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Farley, seconded by Mr. Angel, that this board approve the paying of the other bills as presented to us. Any discussion?
Just real quick, there's one huge bill we're paying is HMH, and that is for our language arts curriculum. I know it's a hefty bill, but language arts is usually one of those hefty bills. The good news is, when's the next time I have to buy?
6 years.
6 years.
All right, 6 years, there you go. Just want everybody to know, it's a hefty bill, I get it, but that's what we need to do to help our kids out with their education, so That's all I have to explain.
Any other
to the bill.
discussion?
I don't know if anybody else has been questioning. It seemed like it's a firestorm just happened just this week about concerns about CRT being in our curriculum. And just to clear that out, talked to Mr. Warville, and we don't have anything like that in our curriculum. Just want to make that known to the public that we do not.
Correct. It's not a standard, and therefore we should not teach it. It should not be taught in the classroom, and our State Board of Education has also allowed us to understand that that is a directive that we follow the state standards and we don't go off script.
Any other discussion on the bills? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, abstaining. 5 votes in affirmative, the rest of the bills have been paid. Transfers and supplements.
None.
We have before us old business item 9A, approved policy to be adopted. Policy Roman numeral 7-A-11, student use of cell phones and electronic signaling devices in schools. Members, I think if you look in your packet, you'll see that there is the verbiage is there regarding that policy.
Do you mind if Trey goes over that a little bit? For just a second, clarification.
That's why we're paying you. These big bucks. You go ahead.
He said we were not paying for the nights.
Well, that's
That's even
true,
better.
that is
No,
true.
but he wrote it back in his office.
That's
and we just
right.
want him to explain what he did, and we are paying.
Just give a guy a chance.
What I try to do, the comment page that is attached to these is for your all's benefit to try to show what kind of historically we've done. Most of the time, you'll see one paragraph gives an idea what the policy change or recommendation is. This one, of course, has several because this has been reviewed, changed, it's been put up for comment a couple times, so the history's kind of there. So the last paragraph's really what I would update you on tonight. We've had several reviews and discussions about it. So after the last meeting, I understood what the language needed to be was that cell phone usage on the school bus shall be at the discretion of the school bus operator. I put that under section B6. There was no B6 before, but that's really kind of an authorization statement, so I thought it would fit better under that section 6. And then down on 3, where we were discussing it, under prohibitions and disciplinary action, it mentions bus operator again. So it's kind of in both spots. I just thought it made more sense. So it should be the language you want, but I want to make clear that it's under B6. Is that what everybody's okay with?
Okay. The chair moves under old business 9A that this board approve policy Roman numeral 7-A-11, student use of cell phones, electronic signaling devices in schools, as presented to us by the superintendent and by our attorney who has crafted this.
I'll
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that this board approve 9A policy to be approved, Roman numeral 7-A-11, student use of cell phones, electronic signaling devices in schools. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 5 votes in affirmative, that becomes policy. That brings us to item 10, new business. 10A is approved purchases over $20,000. Again, I think there's a
You got a little
printout in your, yes, right here. It's this one here, guys. They got it?
And then on the back side to save paper, you can see our POs on what we're gonna spend the money on. But the reason why we need to do this is McKinley Associates are working with us at the bus garage, so we put $100,000. McKinley Associates are working with the gymnasium at Talcott and the Hinton area cafeteria. We have $250,000. That doesn't mean that's the end of it. It's just, you gotta open it up, because they're working on plans and we're gonna have to pay them eventually, and I don't wanna get caught not putting that out there. And then the SBA project, the reason why that's $500,000 is because if you've been out to high school lately, there's a lot of surveying going on and they're working on plans. You will see some plans coming forth. I've asked for them to give us some preliminary drawings. I hate that word, but anyway, they're trying to make sure that we get out of floodplain and they get it right, because they're finding out that we have a floodplain not because of the river, but for the water coming across the road. And they are now seeing that with their surveying and getting that straightened up before we put $8.2 million on that ground to add to our facility. So it's a process, but we need to open up these POs now because we're gonna get billed for all this preliminary work as we move forward. This is not the end result. It could be under 100,000 for the bus garage, it could be more, I don't know, and so on and so forth. So we just need to start moving forward to get this done because McKinley's doing a lot of our work. And, we're excited for them to go out and work, and it's a little slow, I understand, but one thing at a time as we move forward, and, we just need to open up some big POs at this point in time.
Regarding the bus garage, the board would have to approve an RFP of specifications once they come up with them on what they suggest we do with the wall at the bus garage, correct?
Yes, yes.
And so this is a blanket here, and, we
Because
don't-
of drawings and surveying and all that stuff. It could be, maybe it's 20,000 for that. I don't know, guys, but we gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being anywhere near that, but we're covered.
Well, that's how I'm looking at it, 'cause I don't wanna slow down and have more special meetings and push people to get together quickly or have an emergency meeting. If you feel more comfortable, we can make the bus garage at 50,000. It doesn't matter to me. But the other two have to be big ticket because there's a lot of work that has to be done there versus the bus garage.
This is not necessarily just for the drawings and the
It's
surveying.
just the start.
This would encompass project cost as well, up to that amount.
Right, so like when they travel here, they answer our questions, they do drawings, they do surveys, they have to do all that preliminary work just to get to that point before we can even actually dig, if you will.
Yeah.
Any other questions by any members regarding this? I know we passed on an agreement to employ McKinley and Associates on the addition to the high school. We approved that.
You
Right.
approved them to work with us in the county too.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is there's been 2 times the board has voted to approve them on other than the high school edition? If there were
Right.
other times?
Right, we approved, and I don't know what date, but I can dig it up for the next
No,
board meeting,
okay.
that you guys approved to use them to work on all these other, because we need a firm and engineers and architects, and as you got McKinley on board, it's just gonna be a little bit quicker to expedite this as we move forward. Cause we interviewed other, firms, but we just felt McKinley was the best to move forward at this point in time.
I don't have a problem them doing that.
That doesn't mean they're gonna do the digging and that, you could have multiple people contracting out different parts of different facilities.
I'm just wondering, I mean, I know we said we wanted them to, give us a proposal, do the engineering, do a proposal on that. Did they say what kind of numbers it would be, that they would charge us to do that?
No, this number was just me giving an arbitrary number because I don't know what it's gonna cost, but I do know at this point in time, if I put down 50, watch it be 52 or 50, I don't know. If I do 100, if it makes you feel better, we can drop it down to 20,000. I don't wanna slow down the process as we move forward. Whatever you guys feel comfortable with, you can change that.
They're
number.
working on that as we speak though, on that preliminary stuff, aren't they, about?
On all this, yes, on all of it. Yep.
Well, okay.
But if you wanna change that number, you guys as a board, you can do that. It's your call. What's the concern that you have?
I don't know, there's some kind of concern I have about the fact that, and maybe I'm just looking at this incorrectly. It says 100,000 McKinley and Associates. We approved for them to work for us. So is this a blanket that's gonna cover not only their their survey work and the proposal they send us, but they would also cover and be a blanket for all the work that's done too, if they're bringing it down?
Well, like, for example.
I just don't want to look like that we've hired them to do these preliminary stuff and that we have 100,000 there, that's all I'm saying.
No, what it is that 100,000 is county money, the other is CARES Act ESSER money, which is in this presentation. We're using McKinley and Associates. I don't know how much it's gonna cost for them to do drawings. I mean, it's not gonna cost that much. But if I do a blanket purchase of 20 now, I'm gonna have to keep coming back and adding to it because it's gonna start building up. And I would like to move this quicker, but if you guys feel more comfortable saying, I'd rather just do 20 or 25, it's not gonna hurt my feelings, but the blanket purchase is because we have to put something down, because if you don't do it this way, we'll violate 8200, which this county got in trouble before, getting the cart before the horse, where you get a bill and you don't have a requisition. And it's just saying we are putting that in the books, we've approved it, we're moving forward to get this done.
So this is basically setting aside those specific funds for that specific function.
Yeah, it's not saying it's gonna
It's an
cost
open
that much.
purchase, it'd be an open purchase order, subject to the presentation of bills. Here, okay, here's where I am.
Okay,
I want this board to have the right to have some kind of a concept and understanding about what McKinley is going to charge us overall on just doing the preliminary stuff on that, for the bus garage.
okay.
These other figures, I don't see a problem with, because we know the Talcott Gymnasium in Hinton area is gonna cost far more than $250,000. We already know that the addition high school could be 500,000. So I can see that that's an open blanket purchase order, because we're gonna have to start paying them for all that work they're doing.
Right.
I guess I just have some question or minor concern about it being an open blanket purchase order for $100,000. And right now, the only thing they're doing on the bus garage is they're doing those, engineering
Right.
things, in which,
Well, but that kind of goes back to the question I asked, and maybe I wasn't clear, or maybe I'm not following, but my question was, this 100,000, did that include the drawings and the surveys plus the work that was gonna be done in the bus garage? And what I understood you to say was that, like the Talcott gym in Hinton area, that 250 would be for the revamping of that gymnasium and the building of that.
But that's gonna cost
Cafeteria.
closer to 1.2 to 1.5 million.
Okay, so this is still just for drawings
A
and
lot of this is
surveys.
preliminary. So when you look at just where Hinton is as a city, you have to look at who owns what property. You can't assume anything. So then you have to get all the drawings to say, now if I move any earth, how am I affecting the guy above me?
Okay.
And then CSX below me? And I don't wanna do anything too quickly without making sure we're doing this very judiciously with working with this company. You can put $20,000 down, or, I don't really
I just
care.
wanted to make sure I was understanding right, because from what Mr. Duncan was saying, I was kind of thinking that this included part of the construction
No,
phase as well.
because what we have to do is bid out construction.
Okay,
McKinley's
so
not
that's
gonna do any
separate.
construction, they're gonna oversee it.
Okay.
And then we gotta also work on, and I'm checking out on Clerk of the Works too, how we do that without spending a lot more money, cause this money goes quick.
Yeah.
And, one is the drawings, the next is, we got a lot of labor costs. Right now, I've been told that just on kitchen, it's $500 to $600 a square foot if we would build a kitchen.
Okay.
That's because the market has swollen.
Yeah.
And so you gotta look at the timing, is it better to wait or move forward, or it's a push and pull right now. So at this point in time, I looked at it as, let's just open a PO like this, and this, because McKinley will start billing us. And I already talked to their billing people, and I said, you sent me 2 bills, and I talked to your president, and the president said we should not get any bills. And I asked them, can we all sit down and get expectations? Once we got those cleared, it was my understanding from their firm that you open POs to get ready for the bills that will be coming, because they have to pay people to do all this work. It's cheaper now, but once you start digging, it gets real expensive.
And I apologize for interrupting your
No.
train of thought.
well, Talcott Gymnasium, Hinton Area Cafeteria Edition, it's gonna be far more money than $250,000. Are you with me on that?
Yep.
So, and we do, I agree with Superintendent Wardle, we have to have blanket, we have to have purchase orders open for this amount, because those bills are gonna start coming in, and I know it's gonna be far more than $250,000. We have approved for McKinley to do the $8.2 million, and it's perfectly logical to have a $500,000 thing, because we gotta start paying for that, I see that. They have not given us a bill like they did, or an estimate, like for the addition down there and the other. They haven't given us anything on what they're doing on the bus garage. And it just concerns me, they might look at this and say, well, they've got a blanket purchase order, and I'd kinda like to know what they're charging us for, they're working on that, but I'd like to know what it is they're gonna charge us for that engineering work that they're doing.
Well, here, I'll help you out. The superintendent recommends 20,000. We really gotta move on. We're getting in the weeds on this, and it's getting frustrating, Mr. Duncan, because I don't know, and they don't know, because they don't, until you dig, it could cost $1 million.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about doing just the engineer, giving us the RFP.
But they don't know because they
No, I
have a
don't mean
survey.
that. The survey, they are supposed to be doing an engineering survey on that wall.
No,
and
not
determine
yet.
that.
They can't do the wall. That's not the issue. The wall has never been the issue. The issue is the drainage to that wall and the surrounding area. That's the issue we gotta look at first. And then the second issue is, how do you protect that wall? You might have to put another wall in front of that. I'm not an engineer or an architect. I'm just saying that if you're looking at this, then put $20,000. They're not gonna look at this and go, we're gonna hammer these guys for 100,000. Cause that would be unethical, and they can't do that for two reasons. One, the SBA is overlooking all this. I'm running everything through the SBA because nobody in this room went to school to be an architect or an engineer. So therefore, we use the SBA to say, are these people in line with this money in this project? So Dana Woolmack is who I'm using my advising through them to make sure that we keep McKinley on the up and up, the market on the up and up, and then what is it that we need to do to fix this problem? Because right now, the problem is the drainage to the wall, because this summer, we haven't had a problem with that wall. Why? Well, so we gotta hit the drainage first, and then it could be the wall second, I don't know, because I'm not, like I said last time, I'm not a medical expert, and I'm not sure an engineer expert, and I'm not a drainage expert, other than I know water goes downhill. That's all I know.
Well, okay.
It's up to you on, if you guys wanna change it, it makes you feel better, but, I have to open POs because we're moving on multiple projects right now.
I think your figure is public perception, basically, for spending a fortune.
I don't know that I guess yes, but I don't base that on that. I base that on my looking at something interpreted. The chair moves.
Hold on, open POs though, are, it's kinda like when we do open POs for Lowe's every school year. We
Yeah.
might spend up to 5,000, we might spend 2,000. It doesn't mean you go up to that credit limit. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is we're just opening it, getting ready, because the bill might come in pretty low on the survey. I don't think the survey is gonna be the issue. It's gonna be building and digging is
Yeah.
the issue.
Okay, then, looking at it that way, then I feel more comfortable with it. And, so, the chair moves that we approve these purchase order blankets as presented to us by the superintendent.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. Angel, that we approve these blanket purchase orders on the list given us for the bus garage, the top of gymnasium, and area addition, and for the Summers County High School addition renovation. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Motion carries. Superintendent Warble, item 10B, discussion action regarding eServe ARP. You already did that, didn't you?
That was my presentation, you guys have seen it enough, it's been out for public comment since the end of May. No comments have been made towards how we're gonna spend the money. and what we're gonna do to do upgrades for our facilities, and how we're gonna spend the money to get staff and supplies and materials for student loss for instruction.
I make a motion, we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the ESERF ARP.
Chair seconds that.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mrs. Farley, seconded by the chair, that we approve item 10B regarding ESERF ARP. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstaining, approved by 5 votes in affirmative, Superintendent Wall. Item 10C, approved policies to be adopted. We've been over these, have we not?
A few times.
They
We
actually
have
stayed
item-
out on comment, I think, longer.
Yeah,
just-
we have item 10C, we have before us, we have 368, 8-A, 8-C1, 8-C2, 8-C5, 8-F2, 8-F3, 8-J1, and 8-, is that O? Okay.
Yes.
We've been over these, have been presented to us. Chair moves that this board approve items just read under item 10C.
Second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, second by Mr. McBride, that this board approve under new business items 10C as presented to us on the agenda and read. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 5 votes in affirmative, Mr. Ward. That brings us to new business item 10D. Approve the review of policy revisions and consideration remain on public comment. And that is item 8-N-2, vendor preferences, 8-N-4, fiscal administration. Chair moves that these items under 10D,
You might want him to explain.
we've been over those, haven't we?
Well,
Is there something changed on
there's,
one?
well, they've got them listed, it's listed as 8N2, I've completely redrafted the vendor preference policy, and I'd like to tell
Go
you
ahead.
about that, and then it would go out on comment. On the other one, 8N4,
Yeah, I got it.
fiscal administration, that's been in front of the board a couple of times, and the only question was whether or not to change the $20,000 figure that I think was changed last September. We were at a couple meetings, there was no action to do anything further on that, so if the board is satisfied with the policy as it exists now, then basically it would be noted that it's been reviewed right now, and it would be put out to comment because there would be any changes to it.
Okay.
On that, that's on that one. Now, the vendor preference policy, the packet you have, will show your existing policies on the back page, and we've had that a couple meetings, and it was like, well, what does this really mean? So, I had to break that one really down and look at the, policy 8200 from the State Department and West Virginia Code 5837, and I've literally redrafted the vendor preference policy from the ground up. I think it's a solid policy. I will tell you that there are 2 policies on vendor preferences, there are 2 options to do policies. One of them is for commodities or printing, which is what most boards would need it for. There's another vendor preference that pertains to equipment. It'd be like a State Department, like the roads or something, like you're doing buying heavy equipment or vehicles, then you have a separate set of rules for vendor preference with those. The policy you had kind of mixed and mingled those 2. So I've separated out. This policy is purely drafted for commodities or printing, vendor preferences. My suggestion would be if you would like to have a policy on vehicle purchases or heavy equipment, we do a separate policy for that. So that's pretty much this one here. If that's what you're looking for as a vendor preference policy for purchasing commodities or printing, that's what I've got drafted here. And all the language you'll see from A through H has been crafted straight from using the West Virginia Code and Policy 8200. So I feel like it's pretty solid in that respect. and basically, you know, if you wanna go questions, that, well, if you put that for comment, you guys would have a chance to review it for questions as well. So, I don't know, you're just getting it, this new draft, so I don't know if there are any questions at this time, but I'd be glad to
Okay.
answer those.
Mr. Worrell, do you foresee that $20,000 being an issue?
We can leave that alone.
Because I know for one instance, you had a bid of 21,000 and some change on some copier situations that because it was cut off at $20,000, the vendor cut their price over $1,000 to get under that, so we didn't have to have board approval. And so that instance right there saved us over $1,000. So that's always a win in my book. This other policy has been something that I have really strained over quite a bit, but the
Which
more
policy's that?
the one preferred vendor.
You mean like to someone within a 50-mile radius or something of
Yeah,
that nature?
but
Yeah.
the more I think about that, I don't see that coming into play a whole lot, especially on big ticket things.
Probably
And
not.
that's what I was, you know, if we're spending millions of dollars, 2.5% or 5%, that's a lot of money. But I just don't see that coming into play, and I'm pretty good with the way that reads.
Well, the thing I can say, the state of West Virginia already does that.
Yeah.
They have that policy where they do in-house or in-state, maybe in-state would be a better word than in-house, but.
Yeah, I was reading over this today, I like it.
Well,
Okay.
and this, what the state code says is that, and what the state board policy says is you can do vendor preference, but you have to follow the same protocol that the state does.
Right.
So this is tailored to a county perspective, so everything's been kind of tailored down to the county's perspective. You know, one thing, I don't know if you know, like if you're claiming a resident vendor preference, you've gotta put it in your bid, you gotta state that up front. There's provision in here about the superintendent having rules to determine if vendors have met the requirements, you know, those kinds of things are in section G. You know, there's, I've addressed in here because it really wasn't clear, what if you have two people that are have vendor preference, they fit into that category, and they claim it, but, you know, and they're both not more than 5% of the other one, then who gets it? You know, I want to clarify that, so there's no question. So I tried to write this in a way that whatever scenario came down the pipe, you could address it, and, so.
Yeah, it appeared that you had spent significant time.
Yeah, I did, this one, was, like I said, it wasn't like revising what you had, I really had to kind of write it from the ground up, and, like I said, I just tracked made sure it was in compliance with policy 8200 and state code provisions, so. But if the board's, you know, okay with this policy, this one will be ready just to be placed out for comment. It's not ready for action yet.
Is,
Both of them, right?
Well, the other one doesn't have any changes, so there will be nothing to put out for comment on the, fiscal administration.
So on the next board meeting, we could approve this one as a new policy then, right?
Yeah, 8 and 2 could go out for comment, and they could be on the next board agenda for, that'd be 2 weeks, you have to go out for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
and what about 8 and 4?
8 and 4 is the one about if you're gonna change that $20,000 amount, if you're not changing it, basically, you wouldn't take any action on it, and we would note on it that it's been reviewed by the board, but there's no amendments to it.
And that, so it is as it was that we have drafted by Bowles-Rice previously.
Yes,
Right.
and it's the policy that you approved last fall.
So basically, you would stamp on there that we reviewed it
Yeah, we
in
reviewed it.
21, right?
Satisfies state. On the vendor preference, was there an issue regarding or a concern or a point to be made about a radius of miles for consideration of anybody?
You could do something like that.
But we didn't
He
do that.
put it in there for Summer's Turning.
But I think he put it for the
Yeah.
county,
For the county?
yeah.
Mhm.
But you're right, you could do something like that, but
That's,
kinda like Mr. Brogan said, you can, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but you can pigeonhole yourself too with some of this, cause these big ticket items, let's be honest, there's not a lot of big machinery companies here, you know?
okay, so, if I'm understanding you right, we really only need to approve to leave on the draft for public comment as 8N2, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Chair moves this board approve under 10D new business that policy 8-N-2 vendor preference remain on review for the public.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mrs. Farley. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, abstaining, okay. Superintendent Warble, item 10D, Roman numeral 8-N-2 vendor preferences. Those will remain on public comment.
2 more weeks.
And unless somebody asks to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, then we'll just note that 8N4 was reviewed and remains as it is, okay? All right, so then, are we ready to move to personnel?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With the personnel, Mr. King, how many professional subs do we currently have? Are we around 10?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So we only have 10 professional. In service, we're hurt for subs as well, aren't we?
Terribly.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just letting you guys know that because when you see these people that we're trying to bring into the fold, some people are actually retired teachers that would like to come in, and we cannot pick and choose. If they have a certificate, we accept them and we move forward. I do know that, we're struggling this school year like most counties are with subs. And, I know we jokingly said that nobody can take a sick day, and yeah, we have that incentive, but all seriousness, people are struggling to get coverage for each person because, well, we're dealing with another pandemic year 2 with it, and so it's not an if, it's a when. We're gonna have to do contact tracing and be hurting for some subs at this point in time. But right now, it's only day 3, we're going into day 4. I don't know what to tell you, but we're hurting for subs at this point in time.
Okay, we're at item 11, personnel items, and that begins with employment professional. Everybody look. Employment service. Turning the page, we see employment homebound teachers. We see employment substitute personnel, professional. And then we see employment substitute service personnel. Unless there is an objection, the chair moves that this board accept Superintendent Warble's recommendation for employment professional, employment service, employment homebound teachers, employment substitute professional, and employment substitute service. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by chair, seconded by Mr. Brogan, that this board approve superintendent's recommendations on personnel, which has been read enough. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, abstaining, 5 votes, Superintendent Warble. Go ahead and do what you're doing with personnel, and if you would, you know the one you're gonna bring back to us on the next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right, that brings us down to superintendent's report. Have you already done that?
No, the only report I have is, it's the very last paperwork. You guys all asked for surplus equipment, sealed bid sale. Mr. Lester printed out, it's in black and white, the colored pictures of each vehicle. You can see the buses all the way down to kitchen items and other. You can see what the reserve was, and then what you see is this piece of paper. So I asked Ken to explain this color coding to help me understand this. Anything in red, we did not sell. That's not a good thing or a bad thing, because what we can do after that is we can just pitch some of this stuff, because let's be honest, one of them, if you look at number 9 and you go to number 9 on the pictures, because they match up, if you look at it, I know what this is. It's a real junky refrigerator. It does work, but it looks terrible with all the rust. Nobody really wanted it. There was no reserve on it, but nobody even gave us a bid on it. So we can either keep it, which I don't suggest, or we can pitch it. It might have already been pitched, but if it does get pitched, we have to document that as well. But the reason why I'm telling you all this is some items just weren't items that people wanted to buy. But if you go down the lot numbers, they match the items with a picture, and you can see if there was a reserve on something or not. And then you see how much stuff was sold for, and then there's a grand total at the bottom. And we have to make sure we have this all for the auditors, because when auditors audit us, they're gonna say, okay, you had a sale, what did you sell, what do the numbers match up? And then we kept all the bids. We kept all the bids, so we can show that this was the highest bid, and this person's name was on it, and it was all done legally and ethically. So I just want to give you guys a color-coded map. Sorry about the pictures, but you know, a bus is a bus, and an old refrigerator is your old refrigerator. But if you want a color copy, I can always email you one if you want to have a color copy of this.
Okay.
Any questions?
Is this still on the website, or is it been taken down?
Nah, it's all down.
Okay.
No, because we want to be done with it, because that athletic complex, once the Hinton Area Annex is complete, those guys are gonna move to the athletic complex and start building on that as soon as that project's done. So I know you guys wanted a itemized list on the surplus, and I wanted to get that to you all at the next board meeting.
Do we have the old website, some kind of website? Do we have two websites up? Is the old one, can it be taken down, or what's the deal?
We're having a problem trying to get that taken down. It's like an act of Congress to take old stuff down. I don't know what needs to be done, but we're trying to direct people to our new website, and I get it, it's confusing, but we're trying the best we can.
I think what's happening, people are going on looking for stuff. They end up on the old one, and they don't recognize it, so it's not here, and we get called.
And see, we can't even go to the old one and put no longer valid.
Can't do anything.
Okay, well, can I make a suggestion? Take the content out, put the link, put only the link to the new website on it.
I will try to do that.
Cause that's what you said is exactly what's happening. If you
I agree with you
do a
guys.
search for Summers County Schools or Summers County Board of Education, one of the first links that comes up
Is
is
the
the
old
old
one?
website.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, they're both on there.
And then
Yeah.
it comes down to the previous minutes and stuff posting, the new agenda posting, all that, so it's an issue.
So if you can't get rid of, I mean, I don't know that you can
Yeah.
do that, but if you can strip it all out and put nothing but the link to the new one, you might be able to reroute it that way.
I just wonder if there's a way you could go to that URL and do a redirection to the new one.
I think I need to talk to some teenage kids and see.
Elementary,
They'll tell
probably.
you how to
They'll
do
say
that.
I know we laugh at it, but maybe that's a good rigor and relevance that Edwards would say to higher level thinking. And I know a couple young men and women that I could probably talk to and say, here is your mission if you accept it.
All right.
Kenny Roden will give you a reward. I don't know what it is, but.
The chair wishes
I'll find
to point out, our next regular meeting will be at 6 p.m. Regular board meeting on September the 9th, that's Thursday, September 9th, 6 p.m. The second meeting for September will be 6 p.m. September the 23rd, regular meeting. Looking at the next agenda, Superintendent Ward, we already have one item to put on there. I'd like to ask you to put on there, discussion and possible action regarding meeting venue for Summers County Board of Education meetings, okay?
Okay.
So we'll make that a discussion and an actionable item for the next meeting. Anything else, anybody else regarding the agenda? If not, then Ms. Farley, before you get to do that, I want to stay at 6:54. I didn't get to start at 6:06. Sorry, it's just the way things are. The people's business has now been completed. Go ahead.